think the UFC is planning something massive with Conor McGregor, Alexander Volkanovski, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, Dan Hooker, Charles Oliveira, and Max Holloway, and maybe even more. And I even think I caught Dana White slipping up in this, but we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But I do think that the UFC is planning something massive with their biggest stars in their company, and I know this might be a stretch when you guys hear it. If you guys have been paying attention to anything on Twitter, you guys will know that you guys have seen some of these fighters, hint at some news. Michael Chandler was the first to say something saying, I can't wait until you guys see what we have cooking up. Which it could be, of course, the Conor McGregor fight that Michael Chandler has been waiting an eternity for. But is this really worth saying, oh, you guys can't believe what we have cooking up? Like, we know this is gonna happen, right? So this isn't such a big news. And we have Conor McGregor tweeting out a little winky face. And Dustin Poirier, when he isn't getting his account hacked on Twitter, he decided to post on Instagram tweeting that he would come out of retirement, or, quote unquote retirement. I guess he never officially did, I guess. But that he wasn't going to retire and he has one more fight and that he has a big announcement coming soon. And not only that, we have Charles Oliveira saying the lightweight lion is coming back, implying, yes, that he also has some fight news too. And regardless if this isn't not all connected, I'm still very excited because these are going to be some fun fights coming up. And especially with Dan Hooker, surprisingly winning back at UFC 305 against Gamrot, it opens a lot more possibilities for fun fights. Not saying Gamrot isn't a fun fight, but we know that Dan Hooker, he's been in wars. And I think he fits into the category that I'm talking about, because here is my theory. I think the UFC is setting up a BMF tournament. Now, I know you guys are probably, like, okay, I'm clicking off the video. You're not making any sense. I understand, guys. I know what it sounds like, but hear my evidence here, because I do actually think we caught Dana White slipping up. Hit the subscribe button, guys, if you guys have tuned in this far. It really helps the channel. And yes, the UFC doesn't traditionally do a lot of tournaments. That's more of like the PFL Bellator kind of thing as of now. But I first want to give credit to MMA On Point, because this kind of spawned the idea in my head. I mean, they posted this, I believe, the day after UFC 305, and I thought this was a very fun idea, but I didn't think anything would come of it, but now I'm starting to think it is. First of all, let's talk about some counter arguments. Max Holloway is obviously fighting Ilia Topuria, right? So how can Max Holloway be a part of this? Well, here's the thing, guys. I think there's going to be 7 fighters taking place in this. Now, normally we need 8, but here's my theory. I think Max Holloway is going to fight Ilia Topuria, and if Max Holloway wins or loses, no matter what, I think he's going to fight someone in that tournament depending on who wins, because at that point, there's only going to be 3 fighters. So obviously, we need a 4th fighter to step in, and I think that guy is going to be Max Holloway, because I think it's only fair. He has the belt, right? So if anyone would get that advantage, have to fight later into the tournament, it would be Max Holloway. And like I said, the Dana White evidence is really damning, because wait till you see what he has to say about Max Holloway. And I think another big piece of evidence for this is Dustin Poirier saying, look, he is going to retire unless there was something, quote unquote, really big for him. What could possibly be really big for him, right? We know he's not fighting Conor. We know that he's not going to fight Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz isn't even in the UFC. It has to be something pretty big for him, unless he's just getting bored and, wants to fight, which could be possible too. But tell me not, if anything were to get Dustin Poirier out of retirement, it would be this idea of a BMF tournament, right? Tell me not. Now, another thing you guys might be wondering is, why not Justin Gaethje, right? Like, why isn't he in this tournament? Now, I'm not saying Justin Gaethje doesn't deserve to be in this tournament at all, of course. But the truth is that he got brutally knocked out in April. And while, yes, there's been a lot of time since April, and I think this tournament is going to start at the end of the year or possibly the beginning of next year, Justin Gaethje said he does not want to fight for like a year, right? So Justin Gaethje does not want to fight, and that's probably the best for him, because he took a lot of damage in that Max Holloway fight. And I think the biggest piece of evidence you guys could probably point to say that this whole tournament theory is false is the fact that Conor McGregor has 2 fights left on his contract. And my question is, if Conor McGregor is going to be a part of this, which I think it would be a big mistake if he wasn't, does the UFC really want to risk Conor McGregor getting out of his contract and not finishing this tournament? Like, imagine Conor wins his next 2 fights and he's going to fight for that BMF title, and he's like, nah, never mind, I'm leaving the UFC. That would be a big glaring hole in the company. It would make them look so bad. So unless they're confident that Conor McGregor is going to resign, or they've already started discussing him resigning, that is like the only thing that I think is a big question mark for me. And specifically with that Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler fight, we're hearing from Chael Sonnen that, yeah, apparently this fight is going to be taking place in California in January. And first, you guys might be like, oh, Chael's a troll, guys. Chael has gotten some stuff right. If you guys recall, he reported that Paulo Costa Hamza Chimaev was going to take place in Abu Dhabi. That was supposed to happen. It was scheduled. Obviously, just got canceled 10 days beforehand. But nonetheless, his reporting was right in that situation, right? And there definitely has been times where Chael has been wrong. But let's not just take Chael's word for it. Why do I think this might be true? Well, Conor McGregor has wanted to fight in California before. Notoriously, he asked Dana White in 2020 to fight in Los Angeles, and Dana White was against it and didn't want him to fight Diego Sanchez. But this would probably be one of the first fights that take place in this tournament if it does exist. Guys, I want to talk about Dana White, right? He was on an Instagram live stream, as he does sometimes, talking about fights, answering questions from the fans.
Got Conor news coming up. We got Oliveira news coming up. We got Chandler news coming up. We got Max Holloway news coming up.
Is this Dana White possibly slipping up, right? Because like I'm saying, like I don't think this is a stretch. Why would you say you have fight news coming up for Max Holloway? I mean, are you really gonna mix that up? But the fights I think are gonna take place are, of course, Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor. Then I think they're probably gonna do Alexander Volkanovski versus Charles Oliveira. And then I think they're gonna do the rematch between Dustin Poirier and Dan Hooker. That makes sense. All these matchups make sense. And then I think the winner of Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler is going to face Max Holloway. And guys, I love this idea. I think most fans are probably going to love this idea if it is legit. Of course, this is a huge stretch. The UFC doesn't typically do things like this, and I am literally making this up out of thin air. But all of the evidence seemed to align with this theory. And look, I think maybe someone at the UFC staff saw this idea trending of a tournament for the BMF belt, and maybe they really liked that idea and they said, yes, let's do it. And maybe that's what we're getting. I think it's a great idea because it makes the BMF title more legitimate. It makes it harder to get, and also just has more stakes for each fight, right? Each pay-per-view is going to have extra stakes because it's for this BMF tournament. And most importantly, us fans get the best matchups. We get fan favorite matchups, 5-round matchups most likely, and it is going to be fun. I think this is a perfect time to do it. It seems like, you know, scheduling wise, if we do this early next year, it could happen. Check out my last video where I talked about Dana White glazing John Jones and my theory on that. Also check out my other video where I talked about Merab and Dana White's beef over this cut and Sean O'Malley, how that's going to affect the fight. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best fan base in MMA. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.